Okay, thank you. Let me do this and go to presenter mode. Okay. So again, my name is Pam Ricker de la Rosa. I work for the City of Milwaukee's Environmental Collaboration Office, or ECO, and I administer the Milwaukee Efficient Buildings Benchmarking Program here, which is annual tracking and reporting of energy use in large buildings, as well as in government buildings of a smaller size. So I like to start with just this term because benchmarking, it is kind of a wonky term that not everyone is familiar with. I'm sorry, I am sharing my screen, correct? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, great. So benchmarking is basically it's a process to annually upload energy use information from, here in the city of Milwaukee, it's going to be from the We Energies utility bills into the free Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool, which we abbreviate as ESPM throughout the presentation. So ESPM is a valuable tool to track energy and spending on energy use over time. You can also compare the energy use in your building to other similar buildings, and it does help to identify errors in utility bills. So I do the benchmarking for the City of Milwaukee buildings, and these helpful graphs here have helped to identify things that look weird, like a really high natural gas peak in July or something like that. So this tool can really be helpful just to kind of keep track of your utilities, use and spending, and again, identify those errors when they do occur. Studies overall show that commercial buildings that benchmark use around 2.4% less energy every year for the first 3 years, so about 7.2%. However, many other cities and jurisdictions have these types of policies on the books, and a lot of those jurisdictions report buildings using, 10 to 14% less energy because they are starting to pay attention to it and making relevant changes to try to reduce their energy use and their bills. Because of, you know, benchmarking as really kind of a helpful just way to manage your building and manage your expenses. Many buildings in Milwaukee were already benchmarking their energy use even before this ordinance came to be. So the way that this got started was with climate action planning that took place between the city and the county starting in around 2019. The first thing that we did for that was to look at an inventory of our overall greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Milwaukee, community-wide from 2018. So the way that those emissions broke down were basically into these large sectors, residential energy being about 30.7%, industrial, but then commercial energy, so buildings, large commercial buildings and the energy that they utilize ended up being about a quarter of the where our greenhouse gas emissions were coming from. And that is typical to other American cities. And because of that, there has kind of been a focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the commercial building sector, because, a focus on reducing emissions and energy use from that sector will also save building owners a significant amount of money in energy costs. So again, this ordinance came out of the City of Milwaukee Climate and Equity Plan. Again, a benchmarking ordinance is really a baseline policy to, just start to pay attention and reduce energy use and greenhouse gas emissions from the commercial building sector. This policy did come from our community discussions and our Green Buildings Work Group, which I ran. And this suggestion came from a lot of commercial building energy efficiency experts who said this is kind of really the place to start. This is part of one of our big ideas in the climate and equity plan, all with the goal of achieving 45% greenhouse gas emissions reductions by 2030 and achieving net zero by 2050 while creating hundreds of green jobs, many of which end up being in this building space, adding insulation or updating HVAC systems or changing out light bulbs to LEDs. Those are all jobs that can be created in order to move towards this goal of reducing energy use and reducing costs on energy. The benchmarking ordinance itself was developed in early 2024, where we sought community feedback through a number of community conversation meetings in the spring of 2024. And then the policy was adopted by the Milwaukee Common Council in early July of 2024. So sometimes there's a question as to why we're focusing just on these large buildings. And this chart kind of tries to explain that. So if we look at the column on the left, this is basically the number of buildings in the city of Milwaukee, divvied up by their size. So the vast majority of buildings are less than 15,000 square feet, because that makes sense. That's our homes and, things like that. However, if we're looking at the overall square footage in buildings in the city of Milwaukee, the vast majority of that is actually captured in these very large buildings. So about 49% of like built square footage in the city of Milwaukee is in buildings that are 100,000 square feet and bigger. If we drop that threshold to 75,000 square feet, we add an additional 7% of the square footage. If we drop that to 50, we get another 9%. So overall, through requiring these large buildings, 50,000 square feet and bigger, we're effectively, benchmarking around 65% of the square footage in the city of Milwaukee. And overall, when the city of Milwaukee did adopt this policy, we were in good company. I think we were around like the 50th or so jurisdiction to adopt such a policy. Yes, there are a lot of cities on the coast, but also a number of cities in the Midwest here that have adopted these policies. And many of them have been, in place for at least, 10 plus years. Chicago, Minneapolis, places like that. So the next thing I plan to do is kind of jump out of these slides and then just kind of go through the very basics of the Energy Star Portfolio Manager and the information that you need to enter in there, getting started with benchmarking your building. Then we'll jump over to the We Energies Accounts Online system, which is where you can find the information that you'll need to input into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager regarding the energy use of your building. Um, and then I'll go over a couple other resources, and then we'll turn it over to Claire to highlight, the resources we have available through our knowledge base, and a number of other resources in this program. So I will stop sharing. Okay, you should be seeing the portfolio manager right now.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so again, this is a tool that the city of Milwaukee uses to track energy use or benchmark all of our city buildings. And this is just one example to show you. We have about 102 city buildings for which we track the energy use every year. Um, so when you come in here to create your account, the basic information is, you can give your building a name, just address, year built, all of that. Then you want to go here into details. Um, and really the most important pieces in this tab are really the square footage, because the metric that we're really kind of looking for and that at least we measure our buildings by is the energy use intensity, which is what EUI stands for. And that's basically the all of the energy use in your building, which is can be grouped together as kBTU, and then that will be divided by the square footage of your building. So it's basically a measure of, how much energy are you using per square foot in your building. So you will add that to this area. In order for your information to correctly um, be shared with the city of Milwaukee so that we can review it, make sure everything looks good and what have you. You will need to add your Milwaukee benchmarking building ID into this section, if you don't have it in there already. And that information should have been included on the letter that you would have received from me about this program. But if you have any questions or need to, confirm what your building ID is, you can feel free to reach out to us. Um, but what you will need to do in here, and I can just pull this open so you can see, um, you'll want to just select the Milwaukee Benchmarking Building ID from this drop-down menu. You can see all the other jurisdictions that have similar programs and so have a similar building ID. And then you will need to input that entire ID number right here. And whenever you're in Portfolio Manager, make sure that you're scrolling to the bottom and saving what you did. Um, okay, so I wanted to highlight that. The other really important tab is energy use. So, and that is highlighted here by the different sources of energy that you have coming into your building. In the city of Milwaukee, most of the time you're probably going to have, a line for electricity use and then a line for natural gas. But, if you have steam, then that will show up in here. If you have on-site solar, that will show up in here as a different color. Um, and that is kind of the graph that will eventually be created over time as you add more years of data in here. Again, we are just requiring for this year that 2025 data be in there. But obviously, if you want to go back, if you want to kind of have a broader view of the energy use in your building over the past 5 years, you are more than welcome to add as much information in here. And we, encourage that so you have kind of a longer term view of the energy use in your building. Um, when you're getting started, you will need to, for each energy source that you have in your building, you will need to add a meter by clicking right here. And I strongly suggest that when you do add that meter, let me just open this up so you can see. You'll need to choose the type of energy use that it is. If it's electric, again, unless you do have solar panels or on-site wind, you're going to be clicking purchase from the grid. And then you will want to add, if there's more than one meter, put the number of meters in there. And then you can go ahead and get started. I am not going to do that since I don't need to do that particularly, but just wanted to highlight that's how you would add them. Yep. Okay. But when you go in there to add your meter, I strongly suggest that you put the account number from We Energies for that particular energy source. It just makes it a lot easier when you're kind of going back and forth to update every year. It makes it really easy to be able to know which account number you're updating, and then taking these last 5 digits of your account number is an easy way to kind of search for your account when you're in the We Energies accounts online system. Um, and I will just jump in here so you can see. So this is basically where you will just add the energy use from your bill. So the usage in kilowatt hours, because this is electricity. And then while you're not required to put cost information, I think it's helpful to have that in there. If you want to be tracking over time, if your energy costs are going up or down, different things like that, that is an area that we definitely include. Um, you don't need to worry about this demand or demand cost. That kind of gets a little bit more advanced than what we need for benchmarking. Um, But yeah, then you'll just add in here month by month your energy use for every month of 2025. I will kind of just some little tips. Energy Star Portfolio Manager does not like dates that overlap. So again, as you see here, every month I'm kind of like going to the next day in the month so that this is not 1023 and then this also be 1023. It might just kind of not save properly, or it's gonna kind of come across the screen as yellow and basically saying that's not going to work. You need to correct that overlap. So it's a little bit picky, but that is basically how you go ahead and add month to month. You just add a new entry here. Um, Again, adjust the dates slightly and then enter your information and then hit save. I'm going to delete that. Okay, and this is what you want, a nice green bar across the top saying that everything was saved appropriately. And you will want to do that for the different sources of energy or the different meters that you have in your building. So if you have two electric meters, you will need to add those two, gas, and then again, if you have steam or on-site renewables, you would add those two. Okay, so then um, I am over here in the We Energies portal. And I'm just going to go ahead and look for my information according to the last five digits of the account number. There are different ways you can search, as you can see right here. If you don't have the account number directly available, you can put in, just the kind of first four digits of your address, and that can be a way to search for the bill that you're looking for. Oops. Okay, so this is the Anderson Water Building. Um, okay, and then this kind of gives you just a broad overview of your energy use for about the last year. Um, but something I do want to point out as well, in this system, it looks like you are only getting the information starting from February of 2025, but within this accounts online system from this view bill history window, you can click on this calendar and then you can actually go back and you can see your energy use for the past 2 years. So that was something that people had some trouble with. They said, "Oh, I can't see all of last year." Um, that's the way to deal with that issue is, again, just click on this calendar and go back as far as you need to or as far back as you can. Um, there are basically two ways that you can enter the data into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. You can kind of do it exactly as I showed, just going kind of manually month by month, adding the data, that's fine. Um, if you have a lot to do or you want to try to do it a little bit more quickly, you can, take your data from here, download it as an Excel spreadsheet, and then go back into the portfolio manager and you will need to get kind of a template for exactly how the portfolio manager wants you to enter the information. Um, but you can kind of put month to month cost for the 12 months that you need to enter for 2025 um, from this information. Yep. Okay. And then, it's a simple just copy paste the information from this Excel spreadsheet into this one. Um, One thing that's missing is, this is going to be the end date. So you will need to add kind of a start date that's about 30 days before. If you want to kind of use this Energy Star Portfolio Manager template. But then you can kind of completely fill that out, save it, and then upload it right here into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Okay, hope I didn't overly confuse things. If you have questions and things like that, you can always reach out to us or, if you need more help just uploading the information, we will kind of later in the season have office hours scheduled in which you can come, and we'll just be available to kind of give one-on-one assistance, to you. Okay, get this out of here. Just one more thing I wanted to show, and then I will, turn it over to Claire. Um, so if you are in a building where you have a number of tenants, and they all pay their own bill, you will need to, you know, if you have at least four tenants in your building, you can get the data that you need directly from the We Energies site via this landlord tenant portal. Um, and if you are new to the system, you will need to complete an owner agreement um, with your information here, the building for which you are trying to get kind of the overall whole building aggregated energy data, which will basically kind of just aggregate all of the electricity use from all the different tenants and the usage from all the different tenants and kind of give it to you in just one report. And then you can just add that aggregated number into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager for that building. Um, and you just need to kind of fill out this information to request that directly from We Energies. I do know landlords, property managers that have also just called We Energies via customer service and requested kind of the whole building aggregated energy data for their building, um, directly without going through that whole landlord tenant portal. So you can also try to do it that way. It can be kind of a more streamlined way to get that whole building energy data for your particular building. Again, if you have questions about that, that starts to get a little bit more tricky. So that's definitely something you can reach out to the help desk for assistance with. Great. So I think I will stop sharing and pass it over to Claire.
Great. Thank you so much, Pam. My name's Claire, and I'm with Clearly Energy, and we're working with the city to support the rollout of this benchmarking ordinance. So I'm going to share a few resources here. Brooke, if you don't mind sharing the slides. Great. Thank you so much. So the first resource to talk through today is that the City of Milwaukee has a knowledge base, which serves as a comprehensive resource library with all of the different information that's needed to comply with the ordinance and which is related to the Efficient Buildings Benchmarking Program. So this is where you can find information on the policy, announcements, and events, detailed compliance guidance, and other types of resources. Then if you could go to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So within this knowledge base is also where you can go to access the Claim My Building form and other forms that you might need to fill out. So for example, if you have a building that qualifies for an exemption or some sort of other building information that you'd like to update, you could find those forms here as well. But you can submit a ticket here to have any of your questions answered. Then if you could go to the next slide, please. Great. So I'm just going to walk you through a very quick demo first of the knowledge base and the forms, and then on the process of sharing your property with the city of Milwaukee, in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So Pam gave some great background on Portfolio Manager and how you can benchmark your buildings. But then that final step to quote unquote submit your report is just to share your property with the city. So Brooke, if you don't mind stopping sharing, I can go ahead and share my screen here. Thank you. And if you already did this step last year, you won't need to redo this step. So once you have it shared once, we will be able to pull that information in for all future years. And can you all see my screen here? Great.
Yes.
Awesome. So this first page here is our knowledge base that we quickly discussed. So this being our comprehensive library of everything you need to comply with the ordinance. And so as was mentioned, you can find different announcements, upcoming events. I just dropped a link to this office hours article here where you can find information on upcoming sessions. But there's also a lot of other great guidance here. You can learn about the policy itself, or you can go through kind of a step-by-step guidance page here within benchmarking on exactly what you need to do, how you can access the covered buildings list, resources for how to benchmark your buildings in Portfolio Manager, and all sorts of other kinds of guidance. So I know Brooke dropped that link in the chat, and I will also just quickly show you the forms that were mentioned. So once I'm within the knowledge base, if I just click on this new ticket tab right here, I can click on any of these forms on the left-hand side of my screen that might be applicable to me. Primarily, the one you're going to want to start with, if you haven't done so already, is claiming your building. So I'll click on this Claim My Building form. And what this form is used for is just so that we have updated points of contact in association with your building as part of the ordinance. So that will allow us to get in touch with you with important compliance updates and to know, the accurate point of contact to direct communications to. So please, if you haven't done so already, start by filling out this Claim My Building form, which I believe Brooke also dropped a link to in the chat. Now with that piece, I am going to go ahead and toggle over to the Portfolio Manager property sharing process. So Pam did already demo how to add your Milwaukee building ID in association with your property in Portfolio Manager, but I will just highlight once again that this is a very important step that you'll need to take before moving on to these sharing steps. So once you have that ID entered, you want to click on this Contacts tab up at the very top of your screen. Then I'm going to click on this blue Add New Contacts/Connections button. And then I would search by the username city of Milwaukee. And then I would click this little blue search button. And as you can see, I'm already connected with the city on Portfolio Manager, but you would see a blue connect button, which you'd need to click. After you do click this button, you would receive an email notification once it's accepted. And that email notification will prompt you to go on to the second sharing step. So now that you've connected, there is one additional piece that'll be needed to share your building with the city. And that is you'll toggle to this sharing tab. And then you can click on share or edit access to a property. I'm going to select the property or properties that I'd like to share. I can do this for multiple buildings at the same time, but just for the purpose of this demo, I'll just select one. So I'll do this sample K through 12 school. I'm going to click apply. And then once again, I'm going to look for that city of Milwaukee address. And then I would click on this personalized sharing and exchange data button. And then I'll click continue. So then I would click on this exchange data button here. I actually already have this property shared, which is why it's already selected. But once you click that, these access permissions will toggle on. And for all of the property and meter information, I would select read-only access. And then I would select no for recognition, or sorry, none for recognition and no for share forward. Then you can click apply selections and authorize exchange. And finally, share your properties. Great. So those are the steps that are necessary. And again, once you do this one time, it's a one-time sharing process. So the building will be connected in Beam and you won't need to go through these steps for that specific property again. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Brooke, if you don't mind just re-pulling up those slides. Great. Thanks so much. And you can go on to the next slide, please. So this year, the city's covered buildings list is hosted in Beam, and all of the columns that you do see pictured here are searchable, and they can help you to identify your building's Milwaukee building ID and all of the related information. Um, so you can also export a subset of this list based on specific search filters. So for example, if you'd like to search for yourself in the ownership field, you could do that to pull up your building portfolio. And then I believe Brooke as well just dropped a link to that CBL in the chat for your reference. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Beam Building Owner Portal is another resource which we'd like to highlight, and it's a web-based application platform which enables building owners to view your compliance status of any of your submitted reports, detailed information on your building and its energy consumption, your previous compliance data for past calendar years, and any correspondence you've had with the city related to the ordinance. So for example, maybe you submitted that Claim My Building form. And to access the portal, you first need to register for an account using an email on file in association with the building. So that should either be the email that you use to benchmark the building in Portfolio Manager for a building which you've already shared with the city, or one of the emails that you provided us with when you claimed your building. Next slide, please. So though the Beam Building Owner Portal is a feature which is currently available, we do have several enhancements to the portal that are coming very soon. And these should help reporters to be able to more easily interpret the benchmarking data, visualize the energy usage and cost information, as well as gauge your progress towards program requirements. And the enhanced Building Owner Portal will also include things like graphs and charts, a compliance checklist, um, projections for energy usage and emissions, and you'll also be able to download building scorecards directly from your account. So speaking of building scorecards, Brooke, if you want to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I will walk you through the enhancements and show you how to leverage them to better understand your building's energy usage and to more easily comply with the benchmarking ordinance. But first, I just quickly want to touch on these building scorecards, or as we sometimes call them, building profiles. And what these are is they're a one-page summary and analysis of your building's data, which is generated using your annual benchmarking report, which you share in Portfolio Manager. And these provide you a snapshot based on this specific calendar year, and they can give you insights and summary metrics on your energy usage and the associated cost information, which can help you to assess how your building is performing and what improvements can be made to reduce your emissions and your utility bill costs. At the bottom, you'll also notice this Take Action section, and that's in the bottom right hand of the screen there. Yes, thanks, Brooke. Which will contain useful information on city financing and rebate programs to help you make improvements in a way that's the most cost effective. Next slide, please. So pivoting back to the owner portal enhancements, there are several improvements that were made to this building inventory page. And just as a bit of context on the page itself, your building inventory is where you can go to pull up data for all the buildings you have, which are covered under the ordinance. But within this new page, you'll find a donut chart with the compliance status of any buildings you have that are covered under the ordinance. There's also a checklist with all of the action items that you need to take in order to bring your buildings into compliance. And more specifically, you can look at which buildings still have that step outstanding. So there's still action required for X, Y, and Z buildings. You can also easily search for the details of an individual building in your portfolio by using the new search feature, which you'll see highlighted at the bottom. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Great. So within the inventory, you'll also have the ability to choose what calendar year you'd like to view the data for. And though it won't be relevant for the city of Milwaukee, since the program is a benchmarking ordinance without any other policy associated with it, if you do happen to have building stock in another jurisdiction, you do have the ability to toggle between program tabs. So next slide, please. Thank you. So back to the donut chart, if you do hover over any section of that chart itself, you can pull up all of the buildings within that category and access the hyperlink for each individual building, which will take you to a more detailed page for that property. So as an example of the categories buildings may fall under, let's say you want to view your in compliance buildings, the buildings you haven't reported for yet, or the buildings that maybe you requested an annual exemption for. So you'd be able to look at which of your building portfolio is in each of those categories. Next slide, please. Great. So here we have some more detail on the checklist piece. And this is where you'll see all of the steps required to come into compliance with the ordinance. And if you hover over the exclamation point icon of an individual step, as mentioned, you'll be able to see which buildings still have that step as an outstanding action item. Next slide, please. And again, back to this portfolio search bar, you'll be able to search by addresses here, and that will populate a drop-down containing hyperlinks to the profiles of buildings that are at that address. Next slide, please. So the enhancements we've covered so far apply to your entire portfolio of any buildings which you're in associated contact with. But the inventory tab, more specifically, you also have the ability to click into property records to view more detailed information on individual buildings. And within this detail page, there are several new enhancements that can help you to better visualize and understand your building's data and the associated energy usage. So as you can see, there's a navigation bar at the top of the page. There's also that communications tab where you can look at any different communications that you've had with the city. And there's a customized version of the reporting checklist based on what action has been taken for that specific property, as well as the graphs displaying annual and monthly energy usage for the building. Within that same detail page, you also have the ability to download your building scorecard, which we discussed earlier, so that you don't have to wait for it to be sent to you. And the tools and actions table at the end houses detailed resources from the city that might be useful to you. Great, thank you. So as mentioned before, this enhanced version of the Beam Building Owner Portal is coming soon, but right now you do have the ability to sign up for the existing version using an email that we have on file in association with your building. And just once again, to reiterate, this should either be the email that you use to benchmark in Portfolio Manager for building that you've already shared with the city, or one of the emails that you provided when you claimed your building. And then once the enhanced building owner portal has launched, you'll see these updates upon opening your existing account. So thanks, Brooke, for dropping those links in the chat as well. But again, this is not a required step to comply, but it is here as a resource intended to help you comply with the ordinance and better understand, what comes next, how you can visualize your energy usage based on the reporting that you're already doing as part of this program. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it back off to Pam.
Great. Thanks so much, Claire. Um, With the time we have left, and I think I do want to leave maybe at least 10 minutes for questions. But I did want to highlight a couple other kind of services from actually We Energies as well as from the Focus on Energy program that can help with this process and actually provide some incentive as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay. So, We Energies does have energy efficiency services, which are available and actually free for customers to use to get started benchmarking. If this, process seems a little daunting or what have you, or let's say, you kind of want to maybe even more easily get your data from like the last 5 years and kind of have that all in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. This is a great resource to connect with. This particular program does provide, phone consultation, energy analysis report. It can review your utility rates and your bills, as well as, again, help you get started with benchmarking in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So to get started, here is the link right here, and then probably either Brooke or I can, make sure that that's the correct link and just have that there in the chat. This might have changed slightly, but if you are in your search engine and you are searching for, We Energy's free energy efficiency consultation, that will usually bring it up for you. Also, there is a program that is statewide in the state of Wisconsin that I just wanted to highlight. It's called the Focus on Energy program. And this is basically a program to provide incentives and mostly rebates to customers, both residential and business customers, when those customers purchase more energy efficient equipment, LED light bulbs, a more efficient boiler, different things like that will usually get you a rebate from this Focus on Energy program. And the program from the Focus on Energy, the funding that goes into Focus on Energy is actually a portion of each utility's revenues each year. So this Focus on Energy program is funded by the utilities here in our state. So we definitely encourage everyone to take advantage of that. That's money that's already paid in. It's state law that utilities have to put a portion of their revenue into this program to incentivize more energy efficiency and energy efficient practices. So this is just some background information. Um, and actually, there is an incentive for getting started benchmarking as well. It's called a practical energy management. And the incentives that are available can be up to $200 a month for the first 6 months, so $1,200. And so again, I, encourage you this, can be something that you just search for in your search engine, or I will show the last slide with the Southeastern Wisconsin Commercial Energy Advisor, Cody Kraus. And you can reach out to him directly to connect with this practical energy management program. In addition to that, there are prescriptive incentives. Again, if you are changing out a less efficient older boiler or furnace or things like that for a newer, more efficient one, typically it, needs to be slightly more efficient than like what is required. So kind of taking a little bit of a higher step to reduce energy use, that will typically earn you a prescriptive incentive. If you have, kind of a more intense project going on, I think, for example, updating some of our building automation systems for some of our city of Milwaukee buildings. In order to get incentives for that, we did need to contact Focus on Energy ahead of time because that can be like a custom incentive. So it's just important that you get in touch with them before the project starts, and talk about what incentives might be available. Um, so that is kind of how the different incentives break down. And I think I will just jump down here to Cody's contact information. Again, just cody.kraus@focusonenergy.com. This is his number, and he is kind of the commercial building energy advisor for Focus on Energy for Southeastern Wisconsin. And he's very good. He's assisted many different businesses, nonprofit organizations, what have you, here in southeastern Wisconsin to apply for, well, identify and apply for incentives that customers may be eligible for in terms of energy efficient purchases or investments that they've made. And that's it. We'll say we still have about 10 minutes for questions, so that's great. Thank you so much, Brooke, for putting those in the chat.
Happy to.
I think we're open to questions on, pretty much anything, from the background of the ordinance to just the kind of technical details of moving through this process and some of the resources that are available. And if not, if you don't have questions now, are, you can put just a general inquiry into that help desk as well, if those questions come up later when you kind of get going with your benchmarking process.
Yeah, I think Brooke is about to drop some of the help desk contact information in the chat as well. But like Pam was mentioning, if you do have any questions that come up, we do have the fully staffed help desk for the city's ordinance, and we're more than happy to assist you through any step of the process.
What I maybe will go ahead and do, I mean, if you've been watching the chat, you maybe saw, oh, sorry, Rob, but yeah, I don't know if, yes, the webinar will be available, later. We will post it to the City of Milwaukee Eco's, YouTube channel. And then it should also have links available through the knowledge base as well. So you can, go back and rewatch. Because I know that, yeah, we did share a lot of different details that you might just want to go back and re-review. Um, there's another question in the chat that I just wanted to highlight, um, and just kind of just repeat it out loud here. Um, there are a lot of building owners and managers who have buildings in other jurisdictions that do provide automatic transfer of energy data from the utility directly to the Energy Star portfolio manager. That capability is possible, and a lot of utilities do provide that, including Madison Gas and Electric, which is the one of the utilities in the city of Madison, kind of the main utility for the city of Madison. So City of Madison also has their own benchmarking ordinance. Their program has been in place about a year longer than ours. Um, and they were able to work with the City of Madison's Sustainability Office was able to work with MG&E to kind of allow for that automatic data transfer from MG&E utility bills directly into the Energy Star portfolio manager through a software that's called MyMeter. We Energies is also working with My Meter. We are working with them. We've been working with them for a while, to try to provide the same capability to customers here. Um, right now, My Meter does work in my view in kind of a limited way, in that it does provide that automatic. You can do that automatic energy data transfer directly from We Energies to the Energy Star portfolio manager for electricity. What is not available yet is that automatic data transfer for natural gas data or for steam. So that's something, it's just kind of a technical issue that We Energies has been working on for a while with the MyMeter software. We continue to meet with them and encourage them to, kind of get this going because I think it would be a very desirable step. We do want to make this process as easy as possible for our building owners, and obviously, having that data directly transfer would be, would significantly reduce the amount of time that building owners need to spend on this benchmarking. Um, Brooke did drop in the chat a feedback form which we're basically collecting information from customers, from building owners and managers that are needing to benchmark. We strongly encourage you to, if you would like that automatic energy data transfer, if you want to provide other feedback on getting your data directly from your We Energies bill into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, please fill out that feedback form. I think the more feedback that we have, we're hoping to kind of highlight this, make it really clear that this would be a significant benefit to customers who are needing to benchmark their properties to comply with this ordinance. So we really encourage you to fill that out. But we'll continue our conversations. There kind of are some intermediate steps that We Energies is working on to kind of facilitate you getting your data and putting it into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And probably on a future webinar, we will be able to kind of talk about some of those other portals that are created, or if we've made more progress on My Meter, we will definitely keep you posted on all of that. Yes, and if you are having technical issues or things like that, that's why the help desk is here. You can submit your inquiries. Through that portal, through via email, or you can call, or again, probably later in the season. We're getting started a bit early this year. The deadline is not till September 30th, so you do have a good 6 months or so to get everything in order. Um, Probably a little later in the season, in the summer, we'll start hosting office hours, which is again just a time that we'll have, the Zoom window open for anybody that wants to come, and then we can kind of work with you one-on-one through the questions that you have. You can share your screen, and that has tended to be a great way to kind of work through whatever technical issues you might be having in completing your benchmarking report and getting that shared with the city of Milwaukee. Okay, well, we're almost here at one. Thank you so much for attending. Um, Again, the webinar will be posted for you to go back and reference. I also wanted to just drop in the chat the City of Milwaukee's benchmarking website, which, is also a way that you can, just kind of easily um, get to the links and what have you, get to the knowledge base. So I'm just putting that directly in the chat. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much. And again, we are here to help and assist you in any way that we can with this whole process. So thanks for being here. And thank you so much to Claire and Brooke and Pranali for their ongoing assistance with the help desk and sharing all of these resources with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pam, and thank you everyone for joining.